What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Badly content. Today's video, we're looking at a team in the Fossil Cup that I had really good results with. Went 8-2 in the 2 sets that I ran it, and I had a few other good sets too, as we were kind of dealing with this RPS Cup. You know, Fossil Cup is it's just super reliant on alignment. You win lead, you win game, you lose lead, you probably lose game. But we have found some Pokemon here that do very well at sort of playing around the RPS to a degree, and I'm going to kind of explain the team here as we usually do. First up is going to be my boy Perrserker. Now, I was super high on Perrserker, and I had to come down on it a lot because, truth be told, when I was so high on it at the beginning of this meta, it wasn't as good as I had originally hoped. But we have found a team that works pretty well around it. If you don't have a Perrserker or don't want to use a Perrserker, you could certainly get well with an Escavalier, Lucario, Ferrothorn. They'll both do very well in the lead here. The second Pokemon that we're going to use is the return of the Mantine. You can use Pelipper if you like in this place. You basically just want any water type that can deal with a Poliwrath in, if it's aligned to it, right? So something like Pelipper, your own Mantine, or you could use Jellicent as well. The third Pokemon on this team, and that's going to be the star of the show today, is really going to be this Golisopod. Golisopod is such a fun Pokemon. I just love running it, and I wanted to try to make it work. Now, yes, you will notice that I did put myself down into the 2400 ELO range, but I've got to say that ELO doesn't seem to make a difference. The trainers all over the ELO brackets have been very skilled, very well played games here, and it really does end up coming down to getting a lucky run in the team comp, forest, if you will, so the jungle. So let's get into these games here, into this Fossil Cup team. Perrserker's on the lead in this first game against a Lantern. Now, yes, the first thing that you're going to say against this Lantern, it's tough. And if there's obviously team comp is always a factor here, but the thing with Perrserker is from my experience, is that it does very well at pressuring shields early, and it can actually, take a move almost as good as, if not maybe a tiny bit better than Escav. You can always let a Surf go here. The Trailblaze is going to get the shield from them, because you can either go for the Trailblaze or the close combat, depending. Now, if they get to a second move here, I usually try to match a shield, try to get a shield, and I come in with my Golisopod here, leaving my Perrserker alive in case there's something in the back, like Ferrothorn, right? So opponent's going to go for a Surf Bait. I think that was kind of crazy, but now that I noticed, they're actually getting to another move here. This is Charge Attack Priority Tie, and this is actually going to be a Thunderbolt on their side, so we're going to end up having to shield it. So for them, the bait made sense because it allowed them to get to these two moves. Now, in comes the Ferrothorn. This energy lead is very nice here. 2 X-Scissors almost is enough to knock out with the Shadow Claws, and this is going to get this Ferrothorn out of the way here. I'm going to go for the X-Scissor on what would be technically alignment, because I wanted to try and win Charge Attack Priority here, but they did go for an extra Bullet Seed, which is a little bit risky on my part, but the opponent goes, and just before they get taken out, they go for the move here. Golisopod is going to go down. I don't have any shields left. We are going to come in with Perrserker to tank this energy, and I'm going to hope that Mantine is going to be able to handle whatever's in the back. The Lantern already is pretty much useless at this point for them. They have no energy and no HP on it, so we're hoping that whatever's in the back is weak to the Mantine. And most of the time when there's an opponent that has a Lantern lead, they're usually not going to be so strong in the back to the Mantine. Now they're gonna come in with Jellicent here, and this is very risky. I just have to make sure that they do not catch an Aerial Ace, because 3 Aerial Aces should be enough here in order to secure a knockout, and they will need 2 Shadow Balls in order to get their knockout, which I should be able to get should be able to pace here to the third. So I just have to make sure that they do not catch a move here. I'm gonna be very mindful, watch for them. They don't do anything, so I'm like, all right, they're not doing anything. That means they're going to try to wait that one turn and catch. And like I'm saying, dude, people down in the 2400s are very skilled trainers down here. Aerial Ace is going to knock out. Thankfully, we didn't get the catch on us, and that's going to be a good game here. Getting into the next game, we got Perrserker on lead versus Cradily. The one fossil that people are trying to make use of. I wish this Fossil Cup was actually conducive to running fossil Pokemon. I'm going for the Trailblaze here. I do kind of expect the opponent to shield up this Cradily, and they don't, which is, it's fine that they don't. They're probably staying in because they're weak in the back to Perrserker, which is really one of the main benefits that I like about Perrserker, is that it has such strong coverage into this meta, having close combat and Trailblaze, that if you see something in the lead that's like a Steel or even this Rock-type Cradily here, and then you have something like a Jellicent in the back, the Perrserker can do very well at putting the opponent in awkward spots here. And I like the Golisopod as well in the back, just to be able to do some extra coverage, and puts a lot of pressure on opponents with its spammy moveset. The opponent, their best answer is a Registeel. And at this point, I'm like, if this is your best answer to Perrserker, I need to keep this thing healthy. We're going to let loose a close combat. The opponent is going to let or shield that up there, as it was a double boosted close combat. It would have absolutely one-shot the Registeel. But now Golisopod's going to come in, and I don't have the, I don't have the button ready. Kaboom! Oh man, I forgot to get the button. Hold on, I'll get it out right now. But I brought in my Golisopod there specifically to absorb that Zap Cannon. I didn't shield it. I don't have coverage for the Registeel, but this Registeel being here is very, very awkward for my Mantine. Now, they come in with a Bubble Jellicent, and at this point, I think that my Mantine's going to be okay to sweep here. The opponent's only Pokemon left is going to be this Jellicent. We'll do one more Shadow Claw with the boost, and then we'll see if we can't get 2 more Aerial Aces to knock out. With a shield and the bubbles being resisted, we should be easily able to handle 2 Shadow Balls coming through here. If anything, I should have shielded the first one there just to make sure that I could, you know, have a better chance at actually shielding a Shadow Ball instead of shielding a Surf later. But we're nearly at the knockout point here. We just need some more wing attacks, maybe get to another Aerial Ace. We should easily be able to get this knockout here with the wing attacks after, and that's going to be a good game. Well played to this opponent. All right, I'm going for the button. I'm going in. All right, we get Ludicolo. This is a fantastic lead for this whole team. Everything here has a lot of play. The opponent's going to come in with a Pelipper. Now, this I don't, unfortunately, have the coverage for. The opponent's going to go immediately for a Weather Ball here, and this is fine. It doesn't do a whole ton of damage, and personally, I'm a little bit more involved in trying to get rid of this Pelipper in front of me here. So, we're going to have the Mantine coming here. I can't find the button and talk at the same time. Apparently it's too difficult for me, but we catch a Weather Ball, which is what I was hoping to do there. And now, because the opponent threw that Weather Ball, I should just be able to fully farm them down, because they're not going to be able to get to the Hurricane before I do so. And that opens up a potential chance for Mantine to be able to do something into this third Pokemon, because they're not going to bring in Ludicolo unless they're critically weak in the back to the Mantine. And they do. They bring in the Ludicolo. They have got to be weak in the back. There has to be Poliwrath or something back there that Mantine would just decimate. And we're going to go for the Aerial Ace here again. I want to make sure I get this off before the opponent's going to be able to get to a move, which I know they're not, but there's the button. I found it. And the opponent's got Lucario. So now this is kind of awkward here, because 2 shields are in play on both sides, and those Force Palms are going to absolutely annihilate my Perrserker. So my hope here is to get 2 shields, but unfortunately I'm not able to get to the second Aerial Ace, and now gives the opponent the farm that they're going to need. I'm going to let this first one go. We are resisting the Force Palms here. They're going for the Thunder Punch. It is going to do a lot of damage, but I've been seeing so many Lucarios with freaking Power Up Punch that I'm like, what do you want to bet they're going to try to bait me with a Power Up Punch? So I was trying to call that, but unfortunately for me, it didn't work out in my favor. Now, I am going to get the shield here, and I can get the knockout, but I don't feel confident that I'm going to be able to get to another move. But my opponent's Force Palms knock out my poor Perrserker, but we're able to get the win by the 1 turn there, so good game to them. The tiniest of margins, man. I basically thought I had enough HP on the Perrserker in order to get to a move, but I didn't. So next game, we got a Mantine on the lead here. We're going to stick in here, play this out with the Perrserker for a little bit, and then go in for the Trailblaze. We can't really swap out here because Golisopod is not going to have a good matchup, but what we do want to do at some point, and I'm shielding the first move here because I'm almost guaranteed that they're going to throw the Water Pulse, and so I would like to pressure them into either switching or staying in and throwing another move here, which is fine. They actually swap into a Poliwrath, and again, this is why my success in this cup has mostly been off the back of just hard countering Poliwrath safe swaps. That's really what I've been trying to focus on, is just have 2 things in the back that beat the Poliwrath. And I think that, you know, when we talk about this cup, right, I feel like the best teams are going to be something in the lead that beats the Ferrothorns and has play into the Lanturns, and then 2 hard checks in the back for the Poliwrath. That's what all of my teams that I've had success with so far have been. So I know that this is a very alignment-based cup, but if you can take anything out of that, you know, hopefully that will produce some better results for you if you play teams to that kind of formula. Now, opponent's probably going to go for a full farm down here. I wanted to leave with as little HP as possible, if for whatever reason, I don't know, try and get as much damage as I could. But we're going to be able to come back in with Perrserker. I don't need to shield this move. I'm just going to let Golisopod do its thing. Or hopefully they have something in the back that is weak to the Perrserker, and now they come in with Ferrothorn, and I just need to get to 2 close combats and this game's pretty much over. Even Golisopod can survive 1 Aerial Ace and take out the opponent's Mantine at this point. So I'm actually going to over farm here a little bit and try to get to nearly another move before the opponent's going to be able to get to their next Power Whip. And then we just a couple more moves off of the close combat. This is going to KO the Ferrothorn, and then we're going to get the Mantine. Boom! Right after with the Shadow Claws, and that's a good game. Well played. Straight into this next game here. Perrserker on the lead versus an Alolan Sandslash. Oh, I remember this game. All right, so Alolan Sandslash with Powder Snow. You would think that this is a good matchup, but those drill runs are very, very problematic. Now, most of the time what ends up happening here is the opponents end up baiting me with Ice Punches, but I actually shield up a drill run, which is really nice. The nice thing here is that we can outpace to the second close combat and throw them both and potentially get both shields. However, I'm thinking maybe I'll just come in with my Golisopod, save the energy, because they're clearly not having a good time in the back. And of all the things they could bring in, it's a freaking Skarmory, and I don't have Liquidation on the Golisopod. So I also throw X-Scissor and Error. I know Aerial Ace is probably the better move to throw there, but I mean, honestly, they look like they do about the same damage, but I was just like, I'm just so like, why is this happening to me? And I have to save a shield for the Sandslash. So I mean, they're incredibly weak to Poliwrath so far. Surely their third Pokemon cannot be this weak to Poliwrath, and I'm over farming thinking, oh, for sure, I try to go for a farm down here, get to another move, but I miscount. They Brave Bird, and then I let them take me out instead of going for a move. So now Mantine's gonna come in, and now Mantine has to carry the rest of the team on their back. I'm hoping that maybe they have a Poliwrath in the back or something, but at this point, I'm just trying to see if I can't land that Water Pulse on the opponent's Sandslash. That's about the only hope I've got at this point, and then just save the shield for later. Because Ice Punches, I can take a couple Ice Punches. We're just going to go for a few more Wing Attacks, go for this Water Pulse, and hope that it's enough. I know it's enough to take out a Shadow, but I haven't seen you playing against a whole lot of regular Sandslashes and then live with 1 HP. They're able to get another Ice Punch off. And I'm just like, at this point, this game has gone wrong in every possible way that it could have. And there's a Greninja in the back, so their entire team gets dumpstered by Poliwrath. So, I mean, they team comped me. Not much I could do, but we pick up a 4-1 to start, and we're getting into the next game. And what a lead it is. We get a Ferrothorn on the lead. The opponent is also staying in here, so I am very happy to see this. There's a chance that maybe they have a Jellicent in the back, and that's why they're not very keen on swapping here. But even then, like, we're still in a good position, because if they don't have a hard check to this Perrserker in the back, it's going to be able to wreak a lot of havoc on this team, especially if the opponent is shielding up the first move here. Now we're going to go for the next close combat. Before they get to a potential Thunder, they did throw a Power Whip to bait me there. I was going to shield up the Thunder regardless, and we're able to get to another close combat before they can get to another move. I'm trying to be mindful of their move counts, right? Trying to make sure that I know when they're going to get to 5. But they've thrown 2 Power Whips now, so I'm just not going to screw around. If they're gonna get taken out here, that's fine. We'll just adjust. Boom! So there is the Poliwrath in the back. We do bring in the Golisopod. The opponent has the Jellicent. And at this point, I am in a very, very good position here. I'm going to be able to win this game just by the fact that we have Mantine in the back to deal with the Poliwrath. We're just basically going to do as much damage as we can to this Jellicent. Perrserker can definitely finish off the Jellicent. And Mantine is just an absolute wall to the Poliwrath. Just do as much damage to the Jellicent as can, let Mantine finish it up. We just need to get a couple of wing attacks off against the opponent here. Now, I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace instead of going for a farm down. I don't want them to be able to throw a Shadow Ball into my Mantine potentially. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the Poliwrath the 1 counter. I'm going to come in with Mantine, go for the Aerial Ace, and that'll bring it pretty low. Now, I do try to get a little bit fancy unnecessarily. The correct play here is just stay in with Mantine and go for these Aerial Aces. But what I end up doing here is I try to clear the debuff, and I'm going to swap into my Perrserker because I'm looking at the Perrserker and I'm like, surely it has enough HP to get to this close combat. But because I get the damage registration error, I'm behind by a turn, and their counter is able to knock out, and they get a full counter down. So technically, I should have been able to get that move off, but only because they got the 1-turn swap, I wasn't able to. If I got the 0-turn swap, I would have been able to. But, you know, lesson learned, don't get fancy. Just play to the win conditions you have in front of you and don't try to be silly. It was absolutely unnecessary by me. But getting to the next game, really nice lead here. We got Jellicent. Some Perrserkers are also running Foul Play, but mine does not. They just don't want to deal with it. They're probably running Jellicent Double Steal, and they get kind of beat by Perrserker, so good game. Just going to get into the next one here. Ferrothorn lead on the lead again. We have been thankfully avoiding the Poliwrath leads, which is always kind of nice because Poliwrath is always like, there's the Ferrothorn in the back, and then there's usually like a Lantern in the back or something like that. So it's been nice whenever we can avoid those. The opponent in that game didn't actually decide to build up to the Thunder. If you're in that position and you're the Ferrothorn, always at least just build up to the Thunder, because you want to make sure that you're not like, you know, throwing a move that is obviously not the one that you should be throwing. I know maybe they have Mirror Shot, I don't know. But even if you don't have Mirror Shot, it's still good to get up to the Thunder, or go up to the 5, even if you're not running it, to at least fake like you have it. The opponent doesn't know your moveset, and I probably would have actually shielded if I thought it was a Thunder. So, opponent going to come in with the Mantine here. We're going to chip it with the Perrserker and then come in with our own Mantine in order to maintain switch advantage here, as I definitely want to keep Perrserker lined up to their Ferrothorn. But the thing I also like to do here when they come in with the Mantine is I'm actually okay with losing switch, so I put myself in a position where if they do decide to let this go, they get very little farm. If they don't let it go, and they shield, then I can get the farm down with Perrserker and get energy, because the opponent was clearly not in a good spot to be able to deal with this. Now, unfortunately for me, they have a Lantern in the back, and then they come in with the Ferrothorn, and so the reason that I come in with my Golisopod here is I would much rather just have this against the Ferrothorn, and all I want to do here is set myself up to get a farm down on this Ferrothorn. So we're just going to go for as many X as we can. I'm hoping maybe they shield. If they don't shield and come back in with the Lantern, they're going to have to use their shields on their Lantern in order to be able to not have to take the X scissors. So I'm going to shield back one time. This is not really a farm down range yet. Just with good timing, right? 1, 4, 7. We're going to focus on the 4s here because that's before they would get to a move. We're going to be able to fire off this X scissor. The opponent lets it go, and we're going to be able to get another X scissor off, and the switch clock is coming back up as well. So with the shield remaining, I should be able to get to a move on Perrserker here, but the opponent does not shield, so now it's going to come down to who's going to be able to farm down who. I have to shield this because my Golisopod is way too low. I'm just hoping they don't get to another Surf in time. I don't go for any charge moves here because that is what I was afraid of. They were going to get to another move if I let them have an extra spark, but they had the energy for it, but now they're on such low HP. We survive just barely with Golisopod and get the win. Well played. Getting into our next battle here. We've got a Registeel on the lead, and I haven't seen this lead in so long, I honestly forgot how I used to play it. So the way that I do it in this case was I build up to 8 to be able to deal with them if they have a Zap Cannon. But the opponent throws right away with the Focus Blast, and that's when I remembered that I was supposed to throw on 7 and not 8. And the opponent also swaps out to direct the energy on their Mantine instead of the Registeel, which is a very hard play for me to be able to get around here because my Mantine and my Golisopod are both not going to have a good time dealing with that Registeel. So I'm going to play out the Mantine the same way as I did before, but I did one thing a little bit differently here, was I made sure I got some energy back on my Perrserker before swapping. So we're going to be able to get to the Aerial Aces here and outpace this Mantine as long as they decide not to shield. And if they do decide to shield, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with what I was mentioning last game and be okay with just farming down the Mantine from here. I am actually letting them throw the move, so I also do not want to give this Registeel more farm than I should, right? So I'm going to try to leave myself as low as possible, not even bother throwing charge moves. I'm going to throw this Water Pulse at the Registeel. They're only going to get a couple lock-ons from my Mantine, thankfully, because of how low I've left it. But I'm actually going to do something a little bit different in this game because I think that they're weak to the Perrserker. I'm going to come in right away, go for the Trailblaze, and they don't shield it! It's like they were okay with me just being close combat range or being close combat debuffed or something. But now we're going to go for the next Trailblaze here. I figure at this point they have to shield, right? And I'm going to shield this up. I'm hoping that whatever's in the back again is weak to the Perrserker. And with a double boost to the Trailblaze, I think we might have a shot here. The opponent has a Lantern, and yeah, this is looking real rough. We're going to get a shield off of them with this Trailblaze, but now it's going to come down to Golisopod being able to land an X Scissor. I did not swap in time to catch that move, which is kind of what I was hoping I might be able to do, but they decided to throw right away. So now Golisopod can be in a position to knock out with 2 X Scissors, but my thing here is I need to be able to catch a move. The opponent threw the last move right away, so I'm hoping that maybe they'll try to do so again. I swapped to catch the move on Mantine, but the opponent sees the catch coming, and they actually hold on to their energy, so very nicely done by them. They're going to take me out with a Thunderbolt.
Boom!
And that's going to be a good game to them. Well played. Getting into the final game of the 2 sets here, we got another Ferrothorn lead. Again, dodging all the Poliwraths, man, thankfully. The opponent, however, has a save swap Poliwrath, so we're immediately coming in with our own Poliwrath. The reason why Mantine is the preferred counter swap here is because it has the bulk and the aerial aces. Now, I know that Golisopod has the aerial aces too, but my opponent's shielding here is extremely good for us because not only does it extend the switch timer duration for us, but it also means that they're going to be down to shield. In no situation do I ever need to shield unless they decide to put down 2 shields, and then I maybe have to shield once in order to take them out. But the opponent down a shield, they just decided to leave the game as they probably didn't have another answer in the back for the Perrserker, or they just didn't want to get RPS. And so we pick up another 4-1 to finish this run. And we get a little over 2,500 elo. So maybe if you're trying to make a run at Veteran, this team could do solid for you. There's a few teams that I ran down in the 20. I went from 2480 to just about 2720. In a few sets with a couple different teams. We're going to showcase the other team that I made that run with on Wednesday's video, but I really wanted to bring this one out today because Perrserker has been one of those things that, like, I really want it to work, but, you know, as Yasser said, it's basically a worse SCAV. So in certain situations, the Perrserker does better, but SCAV definitely has a lot of play, and that's actually going to be the feature of the team on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that because that's a very good climbing team, I think. It felt like the Legend team that we hit Legend with in the last week. So thank you all very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Bye-bye.